Oh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hell yeah. Thank you. Very real studio audience. A lot of people watching the show today. Thank you for joining us. I'm your man, Ron Ripley. This is my show, Honorable Discharge. We're in Studio 395 in beautiful, slutty San Diego, California. It's a hell of a day. We've got some great guests on the mics today. First, give a little shout out to our sponsors, Dos Desperados Brewery. They're a veteran-owned and operated facility up in San Marcos, California. If you guys are ever around there, do yourselves a favor. Go in there, see Steve, see Dan, tell them Ron sent you, because they're the only beer that we have in the studio that I share with the guests. So cheers to those boys. And let's get into it, you guys. My guests today, they're touring around. It's New Year's Eve. They're doing a show tonight at the La Jolla Comedy Store. One of them has a special on Netflix and another one that just came out on Amazon. The other one was never in the military, but he looks like he was just thrown out of it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to have them here, Steve Trevino and Kyle Ray. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for having me, man. Does everybody talk about your garage when they come on?
It's part of the reason we have it here.
It's you're that guy.
Yeah, I'm.
You're the kids are like, I heard. In that dude's garage, he's got millions of toys.
He's got the metallic blue Batman.
Well, it started out with being a carpenter, and so when we moved into this place,
steal things from job sites.
Yep, yeah. Oh, 90% of the shit in here is stolen. For sure. That's part of the fun of it.
Well, you do get the DeWalt action going, so that's good.
Well, a lot of those, I got those. I bought tools because I used them in Iraq and stuff. And I'm like, dude, you can beat the fuck out of these tools. That's all I'm
forever,
spending.
dude.
The only thing I would do more other than DeWalt would be Hilti.
So why were you buying? So you're enlisted and you're buying
my own tools, yeah. Because you can use the stuff at the shop to do stuff, but I was like, man, I want my own jigsaws and sanders. I want to be building stuff at home, because we'd build stuff at work, but then I'd want to go home and I'd build shadow boxes and flag boxes for people as they were leaving the base and stuff.
Right, just cool stuff.
Yeah, it's just,
Where was that, Camp Victory, or?
No, that was, I got my training from Seabees in Gulfport, Mississippi, and then I went to Germany. That was my first duty station in Spangdahlem. I was there for 2 years, and then I got 2 years in Hawaii at Hickam Air Force Base.
Sorry about your life, buddy.
Yeah, I know, it sucks, man.
But it does, my sister-in-law is in Hawaii right now, and she's like, it just kind of wears off after a while.
It does.
The idea of being in Hawaii, and then she goes, oh shit, Hawaii's my only option. Starts to set in.
Island fever.
Yeah.
My folks lived there for a while before they had me, and then they were like, yeah, we had to get back to the mainland because we were going nuts.
Yeah, you go crazy because all right, well.
It's an interesting play. I never raised kids over there, but a lot of the Army guys and Air Force guys and Navy and Marines, they're like, the schools are different. Mm-hmm. People have a different outlook on education. Sometimes it's not too positive because they really do. Sometimes, and I'm not saying this for all Hawaiians, certainly, but some of them are like, you can always just stay on the island. There's no need to, you can always eat the fruit from the trees and the fish from the sea, and just make money off the haoles. So it's like,
just chill.
Yeah. And so some of them are like, the schools aren't necessarily awesome sometimes.
Even the teachers are like, I'm just staying on the island. I don't care.
Yeah.
Well, that's what my parents said. They were like, oh yeah, we moved to Riverside because the schools in Hawaii are shitty. And I'm like, were they swimming in Riverside? Like what?
Well, that's the thing about San Diego I love. It's that it's all the shit that I loved about Hawaii without all the shit that I hated. Like there's no bugs here. There's no humidity here, but it's still tropical 90% of the time.
Right.
It's very comfortable to be here.
I don't know if it's tropical. It's still desert, but it does have palm trees, so that's nice. It's got beaches
and you don't have the island fever.
That's what you want out of the tropics. Anyway.
And if you need to drive to Vegas, you drive to Vegas.
If you want to go to Mammoth and go snowboarding, you can drive there. And you're not locked in on the island. But it's always funny to me, the Islanders are like, man, what are you doing for vacation? Well, I'm going to Maui. Why?
Right.
But a lot of them go to Vegas. I found that out too. A lot of Hawaiians.
Yeah, there's a lot of
the flights are
they
cheap.
have a lot of deals on flights.
Sense.
Yeah.
And huge men and women, Samoans.
Very well received.
Yeah. We were I went to go see Kid Rock in Vegas, and my friend happens to be friends with Kid Rock, and we ended up hanging out with Kid Rock afterwards in his suite. And there were all these Samoan dudes and their wives.
It's interesting.
And then, so I asked Bob, I'm like, Kid Rock, I'm like, dude, what's up with the
I don't want to be racist.
Samoans, right? And he's like, oh, it's a mafia.
Oh, shit.
He was like, you have to hire them when you come to Vegas.
No shit.
To be your bodyguards.
Okay.
So all the women were like bartending, cleaning
shit.
up, and all the dudes were just partying / bodyguards.
Okay.
But yeah, Kid Rock's like, you have to hire them.
Damn.
Like they
Because
have
you don't want to not.
right.
Because then they're on the other side.
And that's kind of their thing, right? Like, you want to hire us, right? Like,
Well, I mean, you couldn't, but
yeah, you don't have
that'd
to.
be bad, brother.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
What do you mean by that? I don't know.
Just saying, you like your career?
So you guys are hanging out, and you're doing. You guys, how long have you been playing together, gigging together? It seems.
You know what,
like
man? I'm
We've been playing together.
How long you been palling around?
forever, but no, you know it's funny because I would come and headline the Comedy Store in La Jolla, and Kyle back then was a door guy, and and it was funny because Kyle always tells the story of the first time he sees me on stage, and of course Kyle's this San Diego kid with his beard and his beanie still, right, in his skinny jeans, and I walk on stage and he's like, oh,
like
I'll
barely
let
had
you
a
tell
beard
the
then.
story, but you're like, oh, this redneck, right?
No, it wasn't so much like redneck, but it's just like, yeah, I'm always stuck behind a fucking Prius driver and blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, it is a slow car, but like, hey, maybe it's good that their gas mileage is nice. It's like, why are you so angry about them not trying to pollute so much, guy?
And then back then I smoked and he smoked, and cigarettes, not weed, but I would go out and smoke stogie, and Kyle would join me, and
you just shoot the shit.
Yeah, we'd shoot the shit, and then I was touring at the time with Jesus Trejo, and Kyle had just made the decision to move to LA, and I needed to film I had this idea to start kind of doing more social media stuff, and I told Jesus, I'm like, man, I got to hire a guy. And Jesus said, well, don't hire a guy. Kyle Ray does that.
Yeah.
Just have him open. And
Just
then that
use
way,
him.
Yeah.
Like exploit him. Have him mow the
That's
yard.
how the business works. Right. So, Kyle.
Yeah, no, it
You
makes
guys,
sense.
I got paid an exposure.
Well,
Yeah,
it makes sense to work together.
I did pay, though. I did pay.
Oh, you got paid.
No, but it does. It makes
So,
sense to pal around.
Kyle comes on the road with me and Jesus, and he was the opener. Jesus was the middle, and Jesus kind of grew out of the middle position, and then Kyle kind of grew into that middle position, and now Kyle helps with projects that I'm working on. If we did a reality show, Kyle helped on it. So we've become very, very good friends. I was at his wedding.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff, and he helps me in so many other ways than just being the opening act.
That makes so much sense.
And we've become more of a team than oh, here's my opening act. It's more of a collaboration.
Yeah, like we write on stuff together, and
Well, that and to like have a ride home from jail that the wife doesn't know about, and just have
Yeah.
that. Like,
That's always a nice thing.
Yeah.
The problem is that Kyle doesn't have any money to bail me out.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
then I have to send him money. Yeah, I gotta. I'm
you have
paid-
your one phone call is the wire transfer.
Yeah.
his one
PayPal-ing,
phone call is
yeah.
what his PIN number is.
4444.
It's a promise.
Shit, sorry, I'll remember it next time.
It's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Dude, I do that at the door sometimes. Like I'll ask people, like, "Oh, hey, how many in your party? Oh, you guys having a good day? What's your ATM pin number? Just real quick." And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Nothing. That's none of my business."
No, don't worry
answer
about
that."
it. Come on, come sit down.
It's all right, you'll be fine.
But,
Front row.
and what's interesting is I always thought it was funny because at the Comedy Store in La Jolla, the employees get to do their 3 minutes on the weekend shows.
Yeah.
Is it 3? How
It's
many?
five
Five.
now, five
It's
or
five?
six,
Yeah, five or six.
depending.
And I remember
I ate shit for yours on Friday. Oh, that was a
Well, I was the one that started the "Don't change your shirt," because what would happen is the openers, the door guys would be like, "Oh, I got to take off my
Oh yeah.
Comedy Store shirt and then put on my performing shirt," and it's like, really, dude? Like, you don't think they fucking saw
No,
you?
yeah.
Maybe
Wait,
a lot.
like-
You know what though? A lot of people don't remember that it was you that sat
Yeah,
down.
we're pretty-
They
we're not
just go,
Steve
oh, they're
True-
the
we're not
help.
Steve.
They're not,
We're pretty
I don't need
forgettable.
to remember this asshole's face.
We're pretty forgettable.
But at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like, what does the shirt matter, right? What does it matter if
interesting.
you changed your shirt? If anything, people will root for you when they see,
right,
oh man,
you're the little guy coming up.
yeah, this guy, this employee at the Comedy Stores gets to go on stage. I'm gonna root for that guy.
I agree with what you're saying, and I usually kept my shirt on, but the other side of it, I always kind of felt like, oh, these people just paid like $20 for tickets, and they're just like, oh, we're just gonna and now here
The fucking bus
here comes
boy's
the
coming
show.
up?
The bus boy is telling jokes for you. You know what I mean?
Well, and so I look at that like a lot of the guys don't like working point because some of like the comics they're very artistic, but they're also very self-conscious, and they'll tell dick jokes all day, but they do not like telling people to sit down, especially after the person said no.
Or put their cell phone away. Or,
Right, exactly. And so it's like, man, I'll work point. I'll work the room. I don't care. But when I work point, I just like to do the crowd work and so hey, smoking, non-smoking, like hacky shit,
Right.
like get them laughing because they're there to laugh.
They're there to have a good time,
Yeah.
and I think we also need to peel back the curtain, because especially my crowds are not stand-up audience crowds.
No, they're really,
They're people.
yeah,
Yes.
They're not like the
they're like coming
They're-
for a live Netflix special.
right.
Yeah.
They're people that normally would not go to a comedy.
I don't see
club.
your fans
So-
wearing a lot of comedy bang bang shirts.
right. But it's true. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like so. And that's one of the reasons that I live in Texas. That's one of the reasons that I have, very normal friends and a very normal life outside of stand-up comedy, so that I can always be able to relate to the person sitting in front of me.
I think that, yeah,
I
that
mean,
definitely plays.
I'm always working on the yard. I'm working at the house. And for a few reasons, right? Because I want my son to see me working, and I don't want my son to think that, oh, dude, you go tell dick jokes, you make a bunch of money,
Right.
and then you hire a bunch of people to do the mundane stuff.
Right.
I'm a job creator, son.
Yeah, I'm helping the academy.
But and it's funny because opening acts over the years, and Kyle knows this, like, oh fuck, we're going to Trevino's house this week. What project?
Is he gonna make me help
Yeah.
do
I
or?
sent my wife a picture of me standing on Steve's roof with a chainsaw,
That's
trimming the branches that are overhanging.
just no leathers,
But,
just
it's
no helmet,
Leathers.
no,
I'm wearing shorts.
no tie off, just an OSHA nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
But that can help.
But it's who I am.
Yeah.
Right. And it's part of who I am. And I think when you guys walk on stage as the opening guy and you're the door guy, it kind of peels the curtain back a little bit and lets people know, oh, these guys started somewhere.
Oh yeah, and
Right?
I thank you. That's important.
And they root for you, right? Because I started at working the door, and I started, as a door guy and a waiter and everything I could do at the comedy club, and people don't realize that, and they ask
Yeah.
questions like,
Yeah, I make $12 an hour. I cleaned up vomit yesterday, asshole.
well, and
$12 an hour must be nice.
Must
was
be
making-
nice. I
was
know
making
you were doing
$12
that for
an
a
hour.
song and a dance,
Yeah.
weren't
what's
you?
that?
You-
What's that
850.
phrase? Overnight sensation in just
Yeah.
20 years.
Yeah.
Well, and
you know?
there's so many people that expect they have this instant gratification. It's like younger comics too.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, dude, it's a long game. It's always frustrating to hear a young comic that's like every word out of their mouth is I killed it, I crushed, and it's like that was 3 minutes.
Relax.
I mean,
Right.
come on, buddy. Like I said, I ate shit for you the other night, and Jose at the bar was like, yeah, whatever you did Friday, don't ever do that again. And I was like, God damn it. And it's funny because I'm glad that you guys are here to ask about it because I deliberately chose a military kind of theme, couple minutes, because I know that it usually does well. I know that you're very supportive of the military community and responders, and that you guys both do tons of wife and life and
Right.
stuff material. So I have tons of wife jokes. I didn't want it to step on your shit.
Yeah, but that's your biggest mistake.
And
you
I
know?
think that's what I learned.
And you have to realize that, my wife is my wife and Kyle's wife is
is
Kyle's wife. And you know what I mean?
So I should have just gone up there
So-
and done my wife stuff.
Do
and-
you.
to match the
and,
show.
not
Well-
to match the show, it's just doing you.
Yeah,
do you.
yeah, do you?
It's not about matching the show. I mean, I kill just as hard in a room that is not my fans
Yeah.
with the same material. If I go up at the Melrose Improv and I just have a 15-minute spot and I'm following Harlan Williams and I'm bringing up Joe Rogan, I'm still going to do the same material because I'm me.
Right. Well,
Right?
see, you're on the line, but as the opener, like, and like, cause you got like Kyle, you've been
No,
around.
but
Like, what do you do? Like, I want to support your guys' acts without like.
No,
you know.
you just have to do you.
Yeah, I mean,
I understand.
we want you to just have a good set, and we're not really worried about your material.
Well-
It's just have a good set to get the show going.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, I mean, like, Kyle and I have this discussion all the time, and it's like, why do I have to come to your house to learn that this is who you are? You're a stand-up, right? I remember, recently I had a magician comedian come out and perform for my kid. Paid him to perform for my kid's party, and then I had him work with me. His name is Wacko. He's a brilliant magician. Great guy. He comes out and he was like, you know what, Steve? I knew you would drive a truck. I knew that you had a ranch, right? And because of who I am on stage, people know who I am.
And it's a heart on your
right?
sleeve kind of.
And I think that that's what you young comics need to start figuring out is, why aren't you talking about this stuff in your garage?
It's weird, man. I don't like.
Why aren't you talking about nerding out on Legos?
Well, it's like I don't like. Well, I do actually. I do have a shitload of Lego jokes and stuff like that. But it's weird because I still do try to, like, as a door guy, like when I'm on point, I'll see like if I'll see like, okay, this person laughed at this, and based on who's performing, like if I don't want to do a bunch of military jokes if nobody in the room has a buzz cut. You know what I mean? Like that kind of.
No, you're wrong.
Really?
Yeah, you're completely wrong. I mean, it's like I said, man, you got to do you, and you got to be you. I mean, that's like me going, oh, I'm going to do a college. None of these people are married. What the fuck am I going to do now? I'm going to do my act, right? And what you have to realize is that those 18, 19, 20, 25-year-old, 22-year-olds are looking at me going, that's my brother, that's my sister,
my parents.
That's my parents, right? That's my grandparents, that's my aunt and uncle, right?
Yeah.
So,
I hear you.
You're still, I mean, humans are humans, and and that's the problem with young comics is you guys get in your own heads about. Kyle does that. Kyle for years had that kind of
I'm just starting to figure that out.
Yeah, and Kyle was like, "Oh, dude, your audience just isn't my audience," and I'm like, "There is no
I knew what I said.
audience."
I was like, your audience is different from mine. I'm like, your audience likes cops and shit.
But it doesn't matter because, if you're funny and you have a great angle on it and you're genuine and and you're yourself, you're gonna be funny.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times you when a comic starts out, they're really fucking funny because they have no rules for themselves.
Yeah.
And they're not thinking about all the things that you're already. And then 2 years goes by, and then for some reason there's this shitty space for them.
Well, because you don't know how to be funny yet. All you know is like you're watching a ton of it, and you're funny enough, but you're trying to get better, and all you can do is figure out what you don't like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you can't see a comic. You can't see a comic and be like, "Oh, I want to be just like him," because then you're unoriginal. But you can see people and go, "Oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that."
I've seen you guys from the pit several times. Like I don't come home. Like I haven't seen the new Bill Burr special. I haven't seen the Chappelle special.
Right.
I hear other people blow it up, and I'm like, all right, I'll hear it. Like I'm not at that level yet, and B, I'm really enjoying where I'm at right now. And for me, like I have a great time. Like even like how I came off stage and I was like, man, no one's gonna call me and try to take me to Hollywood off that one. But I also didn't feel like, oh, I'm a failure. Fuck this. Like I don't care. Like that's part of the thing. I think that being a veteran makes me stronger as a comic. Because like, dude, my worst day was in Iraq. Like, what are these fuckers gonna do? Throw tomatoes at me because I fucked up? Fuck it, man. Like I know I'm not all. I mean, and I know it's a long game. It's gonna take me a long time to figure out
That's why
my voice and all that. And,
there's that saying, right? The core is going to make a man out of you, or and it's true, man. I mean, anytime I know when I meet a military man or woman, I know it. They have a demeanor about themselves, they have a confidence about themselves.
Could you tell I was a coward, like when you met me? There?
Yeah, I was like, this guy's a bitch, dude, for sure. But it's the yes sirs and the no sirs, and just the common sense that you learn. I remember, I was performing in Iraq, and they put us up at Camp Victory. And I remember watching this dude sweeping, right? He was on sweeping detail.
Simple to learn, impossible to master.
Dude, he was killing it, right? But then I go, that's where my dad learned to sweep.
Oh, yeah.
Like...
I was a carpenter in a military wood shop. Like, we weren't allowed to have sawdust in the fucking equipment. So, like, I'm a witch with a fucking broom, dude. And I'm a cannon.
Right.
You can't keep...
But it's, these
you
are...
wouldn't tell it by this.
These are life skills.
But, yeah, it's...
Right? That you pick up and, like you said, you're stronger for it, and you're able to go on stage and be like, this doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
This doesn't bother me.
And I'm
right?
also like, I'm not egotistical enough to be like, like I do not kill it every time I go up. I eat shit just as much as the next guy. And I'm okay with it because I'm always like, why did I just eat shit? And I think that maybe that's where I get in my head. And it's like, because failure is, you learn from failure, and I'm okay with learning.
Yeah, but the problem with stand-up is there is no, you learn from failure when there's a way to do something.
Yeah.
In stand-up, there is no one way to do anything.
It's a great carpentry saying that there's
Right.
10 ways to do something and 9 of them are right.
Right.
Just don't do the 10th.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. So, when you're doing stand-up, none of it's right or wrong.
Right.
I remember Russell Peters and I having this long discussion about this joke that he told where he told the punchline first and then he told the story to lead up to explain the punchline. And then he told the punchline and then the punchline got a laugh in the beginning and then it got a bigger laugh at the end. And I was like, dude, you gave away the fucking punchline?
How Tarantino of you.
Right.
Yeah, that's weird.
Right. And it's one of those things where it's like, well, I would have never
Thought to do it.
to do that way, but
It's fun.
you made it work.
And that's I love that. Like George Carlin had a quote that's like, even if you don't like the other comic, if you're a good comic, they probably have 5 minutes that you wish you wrote.
Yeah, of
And
course.
it's like, oh man, I'm being able to reconcile that, and I think it's pretty cool. I don't know. I like that there's just too many ways to do it, and that's why I don't really sweat it. Like if I do have a bad night, I feel bad like if I get paid and I feel like I didn't perform.
Look, there's a lot of pressure on, I feel the pressure of, I want, these people are spending money
Yeah,
and I want them to leave my show with 2 things. Number 1, my money was well spent and I had a blast. Number 2, I will come back.
exactly.
Right? I'll do whatever you want, dude. Do whatever you want.
And that's how the intern got fired.
That drives me crazy when people are like, "Oh, comedy's like therapy for me," and it's like, well, you better be making them fucking laugh, or you're not doing your job, dude.
I heard a comic with a joke. It's like, yeah, if comedy's like therapy, it's the only therapy where the therapist goes, boo. Jesus, dude, that's fucking even more depressing. Holy shit.
But that's the thing though. Nobody wants to boo.
Yeah.
Like the reason people kill.
Every now and then, there's
mean-
like 2-3 assholes.
Oh, but yeah, but,
Yeah, right?
but the reason people die on stage is not because people want you to fail. It's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
They desperately want you to succeed,
And they're seeing you fail.
and then they're
watching
seeing
you
you
shit.
fail.
It's painful for them.
It's painful so then they get uncomfortable,
And that's why they walk out.
right? And they go, "Oh my god,
can't
like
watch
this
this."
is uncomfortable for me."
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm not gonna make any reaction, and then now the no reaction is fucking worse.
You're doing great. Like, oh man.
Going back to that thing you were talking about earlier, I feel like the question I get asked like surprisingly often is like, "Oh, you tour around. How much do you change up your act?" And it's like virtually not at all. Like a couple of local jokes.
I feel like you've been doing
The same bullshit.
the same bullshit.
well, for some reason, like I said, I think this is probably the 3rd time I've seen you, Steve, and like the 2nd or maybe like 4 on your own, like in between. But I felt like this weekend for some reason the get off my tits ma, like it felt different than because usually I've always like
I'm just selling it, dude. That
Did
joke
you ever notice
sucks.
it?
Like,
I've always kind of enjoyed it because it's like when they hear who you're addressing, it's like I've always
yeah,
seen
but that's like a.
Yeah, but again, you're being too hard on yourself. It's one of those things where
Yeah.
if it's funny, it's funny.
Yeah, well, I mean that's
You know,
why I still do it. I mean, it's just to kind of, it's more to kind of set up the mood and kind of like where I'm coming from than it is of like, oh man, you guys, this is going to be such a left hook when they find out it's my mom. That's
Well,
on
I don't
my
think
ass
it's that
about
was
this.
what I meant, but I meant like the inflection in your delivery. It's like because when I've heard you do it before, like when I heard it this weekend, I was like, that's different in some way, shape, or form. Because I remember you telling the joke. It's similar to the way like I also know the way you do this every time. You
But
do
it's
this.
like, Louis C.K., and, he said it the best. He goes, I spent 15 years working on a great hour. 15 years to get that great hour. Then I put that hour on TV, and then it was like, now what? I took 15 years to
make
get
that.
that hour. And I went through the same thing where I had been doing it 15 years, get my Showtime special, and then it was like, oh, fuck, now what?
Yeah.
Right? So then I had 2 years to get ready for Relatable. We're going to film the next one in 2 years. I write a whole new hour for Relatable, put it out there, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh shit, now what? Right? And that was, after Relatable, that was the most scary time in my career because it went viral. People were coming out to see it. They wanted to see those jokes. So now on stage, there is pressure now. People want to see some of the old bits, right? And after the Showtime special, nobody gave a shit. So I was still on stage working material out, fucking around. There was nobody in the audience. All of a sudden, after Relatable, everything sold out. And I have these people in the audience that are like, we need to see a show, motherfucker.
Yeah, we want it to be as good as the shit that you spent 2 years working on, too, that we
So
were
then
introduced to you by.
It took a long time to, and he'll tell you, man, I mean, we get so into the material now where every word matters. I mean, by the time I filmed Till Death, every word was perfect to the point where Kyle and Brian Hart both had the notes, and at the end of the special, they were like, "There's nothing, you got it." Because I had it. I had it word for word.
But it's me and another writer, Brian Hart, and we're just like looking at.
And it's like he's reciting a novel or something like that.
And Brian had watched Steve perform his act and given him notes, and it was just tightening the screws and making sure everything was right. And Brian actually went to the trouble of like writing out the whole thing. And so it's funny that when you filmed Till Death, I was there sweeping. I mopped the stage before the show, and then and then I made the announcement like introducing him, and then while it's filming, I'm sitting behind Renee and the other director, like watching in Video Village. Watching.
Like, wait a minute, what the fuck's the mopping guy?
Yeah, why is the mop asshole sitting behind the director?
Fucker snuck in.
And then as soon as Steve gets done, it's like he says hi to his wife, and then it's me and Brian just going, "No, I think you got everything. Maybe do this.
Hey, do this, do that, and pick this up."
And then he's like, "Okay, got it." And then I go and I'm picking up like dip cups from the. Under the chairs for the
filming
next
here. We're
for the
fucking
next
filming.
But and then so after Till Death, and I had written this material and I worked on this material and we were performing this material, and then I told Kyle this was the first time that it came so easy the next hour that within 3 months I was like, oh shit, I have another hour.
And do you think it was just like the floodgate kind of opened and like a light came on and you're like, cool, I think I know a formula?
It's what they always talk about, the voice, right? Do you have a voice, right? Yeah. Sebastian Maniscalco definitely has a very clear, what are you doing?
Yeah.
We used to do things like this. Now we do them like this, right? So, once you find that, Bill Burr, and it's frustrating because I tell Kyle, I'm like, dude, you're still with the same 30 minutes, give or take 15 or 10.
It's come on.
And you've helped me write 3 hours. Yeah. And Kyle's like, well, because it's easy to write for you. And it's because I have a voice, right?
No, that makes sense.
Well, it's like everything I write to, I'll like start talking shit about something. I go, well, maybe, I don't know, their life's a little different, and maybe I
you try to find a way out of the joke. You're like, maybe it's not good. Maybe it's just not good. Maybe I shouldn't.
I'm like, fuck these guys. I don't know. They grew up different.
Yeah,
he's really good at that.
I don't want to like hurt anybody's feelings.
You're still kind. The nicest comic.
We're on the road, and he'll do something like that where he'll just go off about something that annoys him, and I'm sitting there just dying.
Dude, write that down. Write it down.
I'm like, Kyle, that's a bit. And he's like, no. And then he'll talk himself out of it.
Dude, my brother does that. My brother does that to me. My Nana recently passed away, and I had a FaceTime chat with her, and it's the final moments, and she's got a tube in and stuff, and it's really like it's a very real moment. And then in my head, it just flashes. I'm like, what if I put a fucking Instagram filter on her? And like gave her like the young face and stuff. She's got the fucking. I'm like, it's my Nana, and she's dying. She's dying, and I'm still like, good luck.
But it's why we're funny, right?
Right.
It's how we cope.
Then it's right? But like a year and a half from now, that might be something like a minute on stage that I can tell.
Sure,
like,
but because of our mind, right? And our comedic. I'm uncomfortable. Say something funny.
Yeah, and
I'm uncomfortable. Be funny.
Yeah, I'm uncomfortable. What's the worst thing I could do right now?
Right.
And then I'm just giggling.
How do I get
myself.
out of this shit? Right? How do I get out of being uncomfortable?
Like how could I dress at her funeral that I make everyone be like, all right.
He's cool.
Hey, I'm getting pulled over by a cop. Wouldn't it be funny if I just tried to steal the pen out of his front pocket? Like just
the one right next to his gun, maybe. So you're Steve. You're based in Texas, or you living in Los Angeles, or
No, I mean, I
you
moved.
float back and forth.
I do a lot of dates in California, so I'm here all the time. But I thought, oh, I got to move to L.A. and I got to be in the mix, and I got to perform at the Comedy Store in L.A. and I have to play the game, and I wasn't good at it, and I'm not good at it, and I see through all the bullshit, and I can't play along, and it's hard for me, and a lot of times comics that, Steve, play the game, man, you're really funny, and I'm like, I don't want to play the game. I want to do my job. I want to be the best comedian out there, and I want to be rewarded for it. Yeah. And LA is a very superficial place. I mean, it's and for me, I had a crew in high school. I had very close friends and cousins that were my best friends, and my high school childhood friends are still my friends today.
You didn't need a new Hollywood clique.
Yeah, so I wasn't like, oh, now these guys are my best. I
got to roll with these.
That's weird. We talk about that a lot. How there's people that their only friends are other comedians.
Yeah, well, their whole life started at the Comedy Store.
Yeah, and
and like yourself, you have your military buddies. I'm sure your high school friends, your family, and for me, there's guys that their whole entire life starts
at that stage
at the Comedy Store,
and
they had no friends in high school. They were the kid in the back that was the smart ass, funny dude that nobody really hung out with and talked to. And then they moved to the Comedy Store, and now all of a sudden they're starting to make, oh, you're starting to? Well, now their best friends are comedians.
Right.
And for me, I didn't need any new friends.
I used to have a bit about how, like, letting everybody know that you're a stand-up comedian is very similar to coming out as gay from what I've seen. It's like, look, guess what I'm doing now? I'm down at the club, and they're like, all right, you're funny. We've been telling you you're funny.
Maybe it's just a phase.
Or they're like, we've known he was funny for a long time. We're just glad he's
He'll
embracing
get out of it.
He'll
get out of it.
It's very much like, but it seems so obvious. But I don't. But
I realized that I didn't need that, right? And you look at, great comics. Joe Rogan's a great comic, and David Spade's a great comic, and they love being
funny and
at the Comedy Store. They want to be there. They something inside of them needs that. I don't. I don't need to be at the Comedy Store till 4:00 in the morning. I don't. But then you got guys like Ray Romano and Tim Allen and Adam Sandler and all these great comics, George Lopez and all the Kings of Comedy guys, right?
Yeah.
They're not at the Comedy Store every night.
Yeah,
they can
do what they want.
Right, they do what they want, and
well, for me, it's like I don't know where I'm gonna land. I don't know if I'm ever gonna sell out the Garden, but I really enjoy like things like this, and I love hosting the mic down at the store. I like talking to people. Like this could be I could be more of a Letterman than a Bill Burr or something like that. It doesn't really. I try not to plan it. I just enjoy it.
I think there's people who all they want to do is be a stand-up comedian, right? And that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
And I think much like rock and roll, now it's a bunch of rich white kids. Dad, support my dream of being a comedian, right?
Why don't you want to be an engineer? I'll support that.
But they do, and they go, yeah, son, go to L.A. and I'll help you follow your dream, and you know what I mean. And that happened to rock and roll, right? Where Dad, we want to be in a band. Great, I'm going to set you up in the garage. Yeah. And before that, it was punk rockers and dudes that were like, hey, man, we got to get a band together.
Yeah, sell drugs to buy a pawned guitar.
Yeah,
exactly. That's, and go from there. But,
right, and now it's the, oh, yeah, you can do that.
With a musician
and there's money to be made in that.
Do you guys ever think it'll be like comedians will be on stage, like you'll be doing a Steve Trevino, welcome back tour where you just do all your greatest hits, or do you always have to write a new hour? They're like, "Fuck you, we've heard that."
But for me, it's weird, man. I mean, people come up to me and go, "I came to hear this bit," or "I came to hear that bit," or And what's interesting is, people find you. I mean, I have so many different videos that have gone viral. last night they were like, we thought you were going to do the sandwich bit. That's how I found you. I saw that bit,
Well, and you'll do that at the end of shows.
I'll be like, hey, any questions?
Yeah.
I do, yeah.
And people will yell out like, do the sandwich bit. Or do this bit. And
I will.
He will if it hasn't been too long. Sometimes he's like, oh, dude, I don't remember how that
I
one
don't even
goes.
remember how that goes, right?
That's funny. It's because I see like comics will come out and they'll still have stuff like they'll be referring to notes and like I don't mind like set lists. I'll have a note, but like, dude, if I see a comic check his phone, especially if he's being paid, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, don't you? If you were a musician, would you come on stage not knowing how to play the fucking song you wrote?
But that's
I have
also
set lists or lyrics if it's
But
a
set
new
list
one.
is one thing, but if you're
Yeah,
like
but
every
it's-
other joke, you're at
you
your
know what,
phone,
dude?
get outta
That's
here.
also become the thing,
I hate that.
right? It's
I don't
like,
that. It is annoying that it's a thing.
Yeah, in order for me to be a comic, I'm supposed to walk
Look
up there
how
with
creative
my
I
phone.
was today.
Yeah.
I got to get my phone and I got to put it on the fucking
What I'll do is
stool.
I didn't
literally-
just wake up at 1 and jack off like you. I was in the coffee shop, right?
Right.
I'll hit
Yeah.
record and then I'll set it on the stool and then I've got a set list on the back
And
then
I
can just look down.
And I
at
love
it.
the, okay, what's next?
What's
Let
next?
me see. And it's like, motherfucker,
Oh, it's like the musician going like, "How's that song go?" And then they hop right into
Yeah.
Freebird, and you're like, "What the fuck?
Come on, dude, right?
fuck outta here.
But it's become a thing, right? It's like I can always tell, oh, you just started comedy. You're 7 years in. You're 15. I mean, I can always tell what level comics are in because there's that middle
There's
level.
ticks.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
ticks, and there's that middle level where they all dress the same. They're all wearing the same clothes. They're and they all have the notepad, and it's like, oh, you're there.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And you watch Bill Burr, and Bill Burr doesn't dress like anybody. Bill Burr dresses like Bill Burr.
I like how I listen to Ryan a lot on that. Like, I'll hear Ryan bitching about like, "Oh, you're gonna come up on stage with a fucking hoodie like every other." Oh, I'm so relaxed and laid back, and I'm like,
Right.
Ryan doesn't like hoodies. That's usually like if
Note to self.
I have like 3 jokes that I've kept specifically because they've made Ryan laugh. And it's like, if you can make Ryan laugh, like he does not hand that shit out. And
No,
it's-
he doesn't. And I think that's why Ryan is great as the comedy club manager in a place like the Comedy Store. And that doesn't exist in LA anymore.
he was the one that pulled me into the office and said, like, "You're smarter than the shit you say on stage. And that's what I want to see. Like, you got to get that dick joke out of you. I'll be there when you're
Right.
done." And I was like, "Oh, thanks, man."
But I mean, look, I
so
I honestly
supportive.
believe that there's going to be a gap in comedy from LA because, young comics are not getting gritty stage time at the Comedy Store anymore.
No.
It's sold out. Everything's sold out. The lineups are stacked with
comics, yeah.
Beast comics, and the door guys are just not getting the. When I was coming up, it was me and Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura and Sebastian Maniscalco and John Caparillo, Ari Shafir, Brett Ernst. I mean, that was kind of the crew, and we were getting Stephen Azizi. We were getting stage time in front of the shittiest fucking audience.
Dude, that crowd
You
was
know,
tough, man.
Man, dude, right? But we were getting consistent repetition in front of these
people.
shitty audiences because nobody was coming to the Comedy Store. The big names were not getting their name on the list to be at the Comedy Store. So there was all of us that were in there. Sam Tripoli was one of those who now is a monster on stage.
I like Sam.
Sam Tripoli and Rick Ingram was part of that group. And, we had all these guys that were in there slugging it out in LA. And obviously you see what has happened, right? Now all of us have a career.
Mm-hmm.
And what's going to happen with this new group of kids that are not getting those gritty spot? I mean, Kyle kind of got to the Comedy Store in LA at the end of what I'm talking about.
I saw both. I was there kind of for the transition where
Right.
I very quickly became that old door guy. Back in my day, we
Yeah.
but
But I mean, still,
like
like
potluck, there'd be like a dozen people in the audience.
But like wild shit still happens. I mean, so when I got hired, that was like a week before Mitzi passed. And so I went up there for her service, and that was my first experience. I just walked in there and like,
Oh shit! That's
within
crazy.
10 minutes, dude, I met Jim Carrey, and I was like, oh, shit's real.
I'm doing it.
I'm fucking hashtag El YOLO.
Right.
But no, it was really surreal because I was just standing there supposed to be security, and I was like, oh shit, that is Jim Carrey. Hello, how are you doing? He spoke to me, and then he sits there and talks to Polly about growing up, and they're looking at pictures on their cell phone. I've been in the building 15 minutes, and it's all
But
I can.
we're family.
And that's what
You know,
and that's what the main thing. I was like, dude, they're having like they grew up together. Like, don't look left. Like whatever.
I don't know Dana Gold, but I end up at a party and I see him and he sees me, and now me and him are just chatting it up, making fun of the party. Right? We're not hanging out with anybody else but each other because we just have a thing.
Yeah.
You know? And what's funny is here's Dana Gold, who's like, Trevino, man, you having a hard time on the road with these fucking club owners? And I'm like, oh shit, you have the same problems I do.
That's funny.
I thought you didn't have those problems because you're who you are.
Yeah. And
You know?
they're all just people.
There was a great thing. It was like back in that when it became fashionable to shit on Dane Cook, where it was something where Doug Stanhope's fans were like dragging Dane Cook, and Doug Stanhope goes, "I'd rather run into Dane Cook at an airport than my biggest fucking fan, like than any of you."
Wow.
And he's like,
That's
I hate
awesome.
Dane Cook for personal reasons.
And for real shit.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
real
He's
shit.
like, I have my own reasons for not liking the guy, and he goes, but I'd rather talk to him than any of you because he's a comic, and
Right.
him and I would have more to talk about than I would with
Your
even my
guy.
biggest fan.
Right.
For real.
But I mean, you know, I mean, it's like being in prison. You get institutionalized. You don't know how to act or how to be outside of a comedy club. You know, the only place that you know how to behave is at a comedy club.
That's crazy.
You know, and then you get so big as a comic that you don't go anywhere else but comedy clubs. So you have no idea.
I don't, and see, that's like, there's guys that like I really like that have a level of fame. I think one of my favorite examples is like David Koechner. It's like he's recognizable. You know him from Anchorman, but
Right.
he could still navigate an airport without hating life.
Right.
You know?
Without-
Someone will recognize him and say, hey, yeah, but it's not like a, some pop star or something like that.
Well, I mean, you know, that's my biggest fear is, you know, I do see myself losing my privacy.
Privacy.
You know, but I'm this famous where they go,
Yeah. Is that?
yeah, like I'm not famous enough that they're like, oh shit, I have to get a picture with that.
What
guy.
about around
know.
like Texas and stuff? Like, yeah.
I mean, he'll tell you. I mean,
Yeah,
I mean,
he gets stopped at like the Buc-ee's and stuff. People ask to take a picture with them.
cool.
or-
but they're not like, oh shit, I have to get a picture.
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, but it's not like we got to get the fuck out of this Walmart because it's getting serious.
It's
But it's very oh man, I'm a big fan, and I'm like, oh thanks, or you know, hey dude, you're funny. You know, it's not, you know, where people lose their shit, right? Like you would with Jim Carrey, or
right.
you know,
Well, and that was another thing too. It's like I was like, I like working, so do not fucking say hi to Jim Carrey.
right?
Yeah.
Like, play it cool, man. Act like
just
you've
keep
been
it
here
cool,
before.
dude.
Cool. But it's like I won't fuck with a celebrity, especially if they've got their kid with them. I'm like, nope.
Dude, I just
nope,
remember
you got the kid with him.
I was in high school, and me and my cousins were in San Antonio, and we're walking through the North Star Mall, and Jerry Seinfeld. Now, keep in mind, I graduated high school in 1997.
That was 99.
All right,
So,
so
Seinfeld's a big deal.
Seinfeld's
Seinfeld's huge.
huge at this point, right? It's like 95,
Yeah.
right? I'm walking through the mall, and I see a guy eating, and I'm like, that's fucking Jerry Seinfeld, right? And I go, Jerry Seinfeld, and he looks up, and he gets fucking mobbed. And as he's getting mobbed, I still see his face looking at me like,
I hate you, kid.
What's the deal with
Why-
calling me
Why
out?
are you doing it, boy?
why did you do that to me? And I just remember like feeling so shitty, dude. I was like, man, I just fucking blew this dude's cover. But I was a
What
kid.
was he doing
right?
in the mall eating noodles in the first place?
By himself,
Why
dude,
did-
just sitting there
Was
eating.
he
and
waiting on Courtney Cox to
Well, no,
talk
he-
about
So
Friends?
He was probably sitting there going, oh, I'm by myself. I'm in a hat. I'm in a mall in San Antonio. I'm good. And then I'm like, hey, everybody, go mob that guy.
Oh,
And I
man.
just remember like the crowd closing in on him. And through the gap of people, he's still looking at me like, why would you do that?
I didn't know you as a kid. I just see a Steve Trevino this tall, but with like your current face.
He got a beard and shit.
Just like, I'm sorry.
Sorry, man. I felt horrible.
That's
you know?
hilarious. I met. I didn't meet. I saw Bill Paxton standing in the lobby at the Hard Rock a couple Comic Cons ago. It was like the last one before he passed away, like 10 feet away. And I'm such a huge Aliens and Predator and he's the only man that's ever been in all three, like the trifecta. You know, and I just wanted to say, like, dude, I love your work, but honestly, like, he looked like he was about 2 weeks away from dying. But I just thought he was up all night, like on a bender, like, you know, celebrities hanging at Comic-Con, you know, Hoover and Schneef upstairs.
Yeah, no,
it's like
we
one of those late nights, you know.
And for me, I always say that all the celebrities that I've known and I've met and I've hung out with, I never get starstruck when they're celebrities that became celebrities while I was older.
Yeah.
It's when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like if you met Sinatra or something.
I remember
like,
meeting Rowdy Piper, and I'm like,
that's
oh,
fucking
dude,
awesome.
like Rowdy Piper, you know, and the bad guy from Karate Kid. And I was like, oh my God, that's fucking Johnny.
Dude.
You know, and I'm friends with legit celebrities.
Yeah.
But none of them make me feel
like nostalgic.
You know. And I was at Birds, which is across the street from the Scientology Center in Los Angeles. And by the way, they have the best freaking chicken soup. It's everything Birds, right? I'm hungover. It's a Sunday. This guy sitting next to me, he's like, hey, man, you want a shot? And I was like, oh, fuck, man. Well, if you're buying, I'll have a shot, right? So he buys me a shot. We have a shot. We start bullshitting. We start hanging out. He's like, you want another shot? And I'm like, oh, fuck, dude. This guy wants to get fucking wasted.
Here we go.
Yeah, it's like...
This guy's going to steal my kidneys. What the
It's
fuck's
like
going on
noon,
here?
right?
That's how you wake up in
But,
PJ.
you know, it's bar shit, right? You're getting
Right.
along with this dude. You're having a good conversation. You're laughing. All of a sudden, John Travolta comes storming in the door. And he goes, what are you doing here? And he's like yelling at the dude next to me. He's like, you're supposed to be at church. Blah, blah. And the dude's like, what, man? He's like, you're not supposed to be drinking. He's like fucking screaming at him. I'm right next to him. And then Travolta looks at me and goes, you're in big trouble, buddy. Big trouble.
To you.
To me. And then
I've never heard this story.
I
That's
never tell you
awesome.
this?
No.
And then he runs off. And then that dude gets up, like leaves with John, right? And then everybody's like, hey, man, you know John Travolta?
I do now.
And I'm like, no, I don't. He just
but
yelled at me like
apparently
he
he's
knows
fucking
me.
pissed at me.
I'm not flying
He
on
thought,
his
he
airline
thought you were stealing
today.
his boyfriend, dude.
But, dude, I am a smartass. I'm a fucking dick. I always have something to say.
You were lost.
But I'm just sitting there like, dude, this is John
what the
Travolta.
fuck just happened?
Right, yeah. Like, maybe he was his driver or something. Marty!
I think it was his cousin.
Oh, really?
According to this dude that came to talk to me, he was like, that's his cousin.
That's just fucking funny. Whoever
That's
the hell
fucking
it
weird
is.
that a dude came to talk to you.
right? It'd just be
Oh,
like
everybody was. It was a thing, right? Because I mean, John Travolta just walked in and
just
yelled
screamed
at
at
me.
me in public.
So
yeah.
now the bartender's talking to me. People are like,
Oh, they're like,
shit.
oh, he's always in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Travolta's cousin. Oh, I thought it was like, hi, I'm from Scientology. That was Travolta's cousin.
No,
and
no,
you're
no.
in
It was
big
like,
trouble.
oh, that's his cousin or whatever, you know. But I just remember like being starstruck, where I was like, you know, like I don't know what to do. It's John Travolta's freaking yelling at me.
Well, what about you, Kyle? You get what celebrity fucking yelled at you?
If he met Bernie Sanders, he'd probably cream his pants.
No, I wouldn't
Really?
cream my pants.
That sounds wonderful.
I don't.
How's your impression? What if he won? Would you send us to college?
I'm trying to remember who it was I met. It's like I met somebody and I was like, oh, I don't like meeting celebrities. Like, because it's, you feel like you know somebody, but they don't know you, and you're just
Right.
some random asshole, and you really have nothing to say to them other than, hey, that thing you did was awesome.
I've always heard you just say, "I like your work."
Like I was getting on a plane, and it's a common thing, especially if you're on a flight back to LA on like a Sunday morning.
Oh yeah, you can.
There's a good chance you're gonna see
somebody.
a comedian or somebody that's coming back from a weekend, and I'm on it's like a connecting flight through Dallas, and Brian Posehn's on my flight, and Steve Byrne was also on my flight, and I didn't want to bug. Like I've met both of them before, but like they don't know me, you know, and I was just kind of like, what's the move? I just want to give them like a thumbs up.
Yeah, and just
Like I didn't want to
Hey,
start
guys.
new shit.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to create. I didn't want anyone else trying to take a picture with him or anything. I just.
But you know, like for me, man, I'm a big fan of guys in this business who have successful marriages, right? Because it makes me feel like, oh man, if Ray Romano,
and Henry Winkler.
you know, and Henry Winkler, I mean, really, like Henry Winkler and Adam Sandler and these guys that have the career that I have, and somehow are able to stay married. and I want to meet those guys, and I'm just always afraid that I'm gonna meet them and they're gonna fucking let me down.
Adam Sandler is totally one of those guys. Like I will be honest, and I haven't loved a film that he's done for a while, but
I'd still be excited to meet him.
I think no, but I love the way he rolls. He hires his friends. He does stuff in exotic locations. He makes a great living. He's
a class act.
He's a
right?
class act.
Yeah.
And he started out really young,
Right.
and he's literally gone through. So all of his success, like, hats off, congratulations. I mean, I see
But it's
people.
like you see people like that, and you go, "Man, I bet me and him would get along."
Yeah.
Right? Like Gary Sinise is one of those guys that I'm like, I
I'd
bet if I
fucking
met
love to
Gary
meet Gary.
Sinise, that we'd probably get along.
Did you hear he paid for like 50 million fucking kids to go to Disneyland?
Yeah,
They were-
and
they were all, like,
he
fallen
builds
soldiers'
wounded
kids.
veterans
That guy's
homes.
fucking-
Like
Oh my god, I'm
the
glad
guy's just a class act, and he's somebody that I think that I would like to meet and
I thought you've met him before.
no.
I thought you worked with him.
I would love to meet him, and to me, he's one of those guys that I'm like, man, I bet me and him would get along. I mean, I care so much for the veterans. He cares so much for the veterans. He seems like a very regular dude.
Like if I ever met
know.
Tom Hanks, I'd be like, hey, what's Gary Sinise like?
Right.
That would be the worst thing in the world that could happen is if you met Tom Hanks and he was an asshole. I'd just be like, nothing's real.
I do
Up
know.
is down,
So
left
did
is
you,
right.
Did you? And you're a country music fan, yeah?
Yeah.
Did you hear about him at Stagecoach? Tom Hanks tried to buy a beer at Stagecoach, and the bartender refused him service because he didn't have a wristband.
Yeah.
He even said, "You know who I am?" And they said, "I know who you are." And he said, You will come with me to Toy Story 4 premiere if you give me that beer." And they're like, "I won't do it." And it was like a whole
The
thing.
rules is rules. Guy.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I know that guy.
I'm
I know that
excited
guy.
to hear that Matt from the Comedy Store got a gig working at Stagecoach.
Dude, Matt would ID Matt for like 2 years. Matt would ID my wife,
Yeah.
and I'm like, guy, it's my wife. Let her in the fucking club.
Matt yelled at me for writing in my book the other day. He's like, "Hey, you gotta be in the showroom. You can't come out and write." I'm like, "Really? I'm a comic. If I don't write it down, Matt, I'm gonna lose it. Like, go tell Jose."
Dude, get back in there.
Yeah, go tell Jose that I'm writing too many jokes, and that's why you need to write me up. Go. I want to hear the fucking
Right.
words come out of your mouth, buddy. Like,
He gets so worked up.
he does. He's so into it. But sadly, he's got his place right there at the door. Sure.
But, I mean, look, dude, I appreciate him going, no talking. I mean, he's very clear, like,
I've never not been able to be like, "Oh yeah, you don't want to shut up? You fucked up. I'm gonna go get Matt. I'm gonna
tell on you.
5 minutes,
Yep, I'm
dude.
gonna
You
go tell
fucked
Dad."
up.
Well,
Yeah.
it's like I do that bit about him on stage and like.
Oh, he loves coming in with the laser.
Oh, I'm sure he loves it.
He loves it.
I
He's
mean,
so
why does he
happy.
have a laser?
I gave it.
'Cause
I
he's
bought
mad.
it for him to do that bit where I'm like, hey, when I'm talking shit about you.
Oh, I
I
thought
got
it
a
was
laser
just.
pointer and pointed at my face.
I haven't seen that.
No,
That's
dude.
fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
I thought it was just
the
the laser pointer he had on one of his knives.
Yeah.
You fucking weirdo.
Yeah, just 'cause-
That's why I said to him, I was like,
Was he in the military? Mm-hmm. He was.
He was a Marine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Because he reminds me of the dude that didn't go to the military, but
really wanted. He
wears all the shit.
Yeah.
Right?
plays a lot
Like,
of Call of Duty.
Yeah.
kind of.
Wears the boots out, like, and you're like, dude, I don't think you were in.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
think,
he's definitely like, but he was, and you're just kind of like, he is one of those people that you're like, oh, you weren't, you cleaned a lot of toilets, didn't you? All right, that's cool.
Yeah, that's why you're mad.
But that's Mike Vin will get into me about that all the time. He'll make fun. Hey, he's Air Force. He's a fucking pussy. I'm like, fucking do your job, Bullet Sponge. Get in front.
They all
Fucking,
have their things, dude.
Yeah, I'm fucking
They
smarter
all-
than you, dude.
yeah.
yeah, I'm
smarter
a
than
bigger
you.
pussy than all you guys. I can't talk any shit.
Sorry, I had my own room to sleep in.
Well, it's like if a Marine starts coming at you, all you have to do is like find something mechanical and go, look, I'll detonate it, and they'll be like, what? That's a fucking no. Like, I'm smarter than you, motherfucker, and they just don't know.
Yeah, I'm not gonna try it.
So much
Either that or they'll fucking feed it to you, and you'll be like, piss.
Dude, the Marines talk shit to everybody, and then everybody talks shit to them. It's just the funniest shit, dude.
Like, because I mean, the cool thing about the Air Force is you work with everybody. I was with
just
Marines,
remember-
Army, Navy.
I remember being in Iraq, and my buddy who's a Navy SEAL, he goes, look, man, he's like, when you go to Iraq to perform, just email my dad. And I go, okay. So I'm heading out there. I email Mr. Berthold, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to be in Iraq, and here's my, orders. So I'm at a base, a FOB in Iraq, and these Green Beret guys are like, hey, let's show you around our special forces shit, right? And I'm like, cool, man. Berthold shows up, and all those dudes were like, fuck. And then I'm like, Berthold, why do these guys hate you? And he's like, because they think they're tough, and they're not.
And
he's like, you know who really does whatever the fuck they want in this country? We do.
oh yeah,
So I was like, oh shit.
That was-
so then Berthold's like, y'all move out of the way. We're gonna shoot that. We're gonna do that. And all the dudes were like, yes, sir.
dude, you're not even. He's not even fucking kidding. When I was working out there, I was a civil engineer. I built in 2003 and 2004 when the war started. There wasn't anything out there, so we built shitters on the ass end of base. We're like, why the fuck are we building shitters in the middle of nowhere in the ass end of base? And then fucking every dude from every G.I. Joe movie I've ever seen fucking steps out of the tent, and it's like goes in slow motion. They're like, hey boys, what are you doing? We're like, we're building shitters. What's up? And they're like, shitters? All these dudes with beards come out.
Yeah, dude.
All these operators, they're like, shitters? We haven't shit indoors in months. And we're like, the war's 2 months old. And they're like, shh. And we're like, okay, cool. And they're like, man, how can we thank you? And we're like, I don't think you need to thank us, boys. Like this, I mean, that's like meeting when you meet operators downrange. That's like meeting a rock. That's meeting Metallica 5 minutes before they go on stage, and you're like, whoa. And they're saying, how can we thank you? We're like, dude, you don't need to thank us. And they're like, no. You get whatever you want. I'm like, dude, for real, it's fine. We're just happy to be here. My buddy behind me, this little kid named Lyle, he's from Pennsylvania. This little black kid just shoots out behind me. What's in them Land Rovers, man? Next thing you know, we're riding around the desert with fucking Land Rovers, grenade launchers, blowing up sand dunes. And it's like, dude, my Air Force mind is like, they told us not to go out in the fields because there could be unexploded ordnance. They're like, fuck that.
Let me see those Land Rovers though.
Dude,
no.
He knew exactly what he wanted to. It was and they were like, you want to take a drive? And he's like, fuck yeah, man.
Yeah, hook us up.
Dude, it was so funny. That kid,
awesome.
yeah, just out of the turret. Yeah. Thump, 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 thump. But that's similar to, and I'm glad I kind of brought it up. I really want to talk about, because you do Helicopters for Heroes.
Yeah.
And you were you close out the shows with supporting responders and the veteran community. And that is so badass.
My father's a Vietnam veteran, and he has PTSD, and the older he's gotten, the more severe the effects are.
Yeah.
And my dad desperately wanted me to enlist, and everybody in my family enlisted.
Yeah.
And I ended up breaking my back in high school, and I ended up having to get a back surgery. And my dad's only concern was, when I was getting the surgery, can he still enlist?
Wow.
My dad really wanted
important.
me to, enlist, and I wasn't able to. I went to the MEPS, and my recruiter really tried, but because of my injury, I wasn't able to do it. And my dad was somewhat disappointed, because he really wanted me to follow in his footsteps, and all my family really. And
do you have brothers or you're?
No, I have sisters, but my uncles, my cousins,
Gotcha.
everybody, and my dad was real involved with the VFW there, and blah blah blah. And so I thought, I've got to be able to serve in a different way.
Yeah.
Right. I may not be able to serve and put on a uniform, but I can serve by going to entertain the troops.
Yeah.
I can serve by bringing awareness. I can serve by looking out for my brothers and sisters in the military, and
There's a whole community that needs
there's
that
a whole
love.
community, and then Helicopters for Heroes came. And for me,
It's such a cool idea.
dude, I get hit up probably 9 to 10 times a day. People, can you support my charity? Can you support my charity? Can you support my charity? And it's like, man, I can't give you all $100. I'll go broke.
Yeah.
But now I can go, hey, my charity's Helicopters for Heroes. It's where I donate.
Yeah.
And I can't donate to everybody, but this is where we put our efforts, right, to Helicopters for Heroes. And we take these wounded veterans and we put them up in the helicopters, and they shoot pigs in Texas, which need to be done anyway.
Yeah, it's population control.
And when you hand these combat vets a AR, and you put them in a helicopter, it really relieves a lot of stress for them.
Yeah, I like
and
guns
it makes
are
them
hard.
feel, and what people don't understand, man, is these soldiers, these guys, they got in to serve.
Yeah.
And they want to serve, and they want to defend our country, and they want to do their job. And then all of a sudden they're out, or they got hurt and they can't, and it makes them it makes them feel like I'm not serving my purpose.
For me, shooting and firing weapons, it's cathartic. It's like it's something I've not gotten. And I used to have a bit that it's like if you'd have told me when I was in the military the last time I held a grenade, somebody just gave me like, hey, you're getting out in like 2 weeks. That's going to be the last grenade you ever throw. I'd have done things differently. I'd have had a little bit of fun, you know? Because it's fuck. I mean, there's some shit you will just never get to do as a civilian that you did.
And that's why Helicopters for Heroes is so important.
Yeah,
you know,
I can see that hitting so well.
And we have a full gun range out there with from 50 cals to the machine gun that's on the Apaches.
Do you get to eat the pig?
You know? Oh, yeah. Well, no. Did we kill, 800-900 pigs? In 2 days, and we just leave them there because they're rats, they're rodents.
Feed the buzzards,
feed the buzzards and the coyotes. But it's one of those things that I took my father-in-law. I finally convinced my father-in-law to come with me, and dude, the guy was a freaking mess. He was crying the whole time. We donated wheelchairs, the off-road wheelchairs.
Oh, cool.
For these guys who they're outdoorsmen, but they have no legs,
right?
And they can't get out into the brush to hunt. They can't get out on the beach to fish, and you know what I mean. And we're giving them these, these wheelchairs, and they're in tears, and then my father-in-law's in tears, and then I'm in. It's very emotional, it's very. We had a boot maker out there last year that put zippers on boots so that guys with prosthetics could have cowboy boots again.
Oh, that's fucking cool.
They work out.
So cool.
Because they can't put the cowboy boot on
over
the prosthetic. So. We had the guy out there measuring their foot, and these guys were so emotional when they put their cowboy boots on.
Dude, that's fucking awesome.
So,
yeah, it's really cool.
Just giving back and trying to do what I can to support our men and women in uniform who, by the way, volunteered to defend us.
It's true.
Nobody made them. Nobody made you. They volunteer to defend us. They do their job. They do it well. And then... now I hear, but
I was kind of a shitbag, but there are heroes.
But they keep you within the line, right?
Yeah.
And it's like Bill Burr, for example. I love Bill Burr, and I'm a big fan, and I like him as a person, and but it was one of those things where he's doing a bit on Conan, and he goes, "Do we really have to honor all these veterans?"
Oh, that's right. I remember that one.
And he's that one. He's like, "Really? I gotta honor the guy with the fucking." And I'm like, yeah, because without him,
the plane crashes into the flight deck.
Right. Without the guy that sweeps, we all matter.
And that's
without the guy that brings the shitter to the fob.
Right.
There really is. That's one of the things I loved about the Air Force that's different from some other service, because Marines are very much like, fuck you, you're a pogue. I'm a rifleman. I'm an infantryman. But like in the Air Force, and we're pansies compared, guaranteed. But we're like, yo, dude, no one does their job if the cooks don't feed them.
Yeah.
And the cooks can't feed you if supply doesn't bring the food. And
right.
Supply can't get there if planes don't land. And planes can't land if no one paves the runway. Everybody is important.
Everybody matters.
So,
and that was one of those bits where I'm like, Bill, I think you missed the mark.
Yeah.
I think...
But I as a veteran, also understand, too, it's like, really? Like, the guy who gets 12 fucking DUIs and is beating up his wife, the guy who can't show up for formation, come on. Because, with so many people, I do understand. The joke is that there's a ratio there, and there's not 100% of dope-ass people. We do have...
Sure.
We do have some... Because there is a reason why the military has JAG and their own court system. Because people... Otherwise, there wouldn't be any heroin getting back from Afghanistan,
It goes back to the Comedy Store, right? Or the comedy clubs. When I get to a comedy club, and Kyle will tell you, man, we treat the staff like gold.
You guys do.
We treat the staff like they're... Because I look at it as... I am an employee with you that week.
Yeah.
My job is to make this comedy club, whatever comedy club I'm in, better. I'm there to make everybody money, right?
Yeah.
I'm part of the team, and from the guy that cleans the toilets at night after everything's done to the guy that,
And that's why I approach opening up your show like, oh, how can I support the show? Because I'm here part of a team. No one paid money to see Ron Ripley that night. They paid to see Steve. So get them laughing for Steve and Kyle. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, my jokes are irrelevant.
Well, it's frustrating
crowd.
when,
that's how I feel.
A lot of comics, especially nowadays, they're funny for the comics.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, man, like these people that are sitting in the room, you're trying to throw these jokes over their head, but they're the people they're the reason
They pay
we
your bills.
exist.
Yeah. And then
You
they'll
know?
like if you do that, because I did a joke about like, hey man, La Jolla means no parking in Spanish, and they're like, that's so hacky. I'm like, everyone laughed.
Yeah.
That's
funny.
what they're there to do. And if you've ever tried to park at the Comedy Store, it's a big pain in the dick. So it worked in the room. It's not hacky. It's
Right.
hacky, but fuck it. That's what they paid for.
Well, the greatest writers in the world still use the word fucking the.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I mean, it's
Like fucking the or
Sure,
just
probably
the
fucking
like,
too.
Yeah. I mean,
but that's how I look at that's how I look at things. And
Your
I
service.
think
It's a service industry.
it's a service, and when I have a father who instilled work ethic in me and instilled to appreciate everybody. I remember in 7th grade. I think I've told Kyle this. I was making the janitor had these huge chops. Right, and he would comb his hair like the 50s or whatever.
As is tradition.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm behind him doing Elvis, and I have all these kids just laughing, right? And the poor bastard's fucking mopping, right? And I'm over there fucking.
You're making fun of him.
And
but
my
it's
dad
funny.
sees it, and I get in the car, and my dad goes, "Listen, motherfucker."
He's working.
He's like, "That man has pride. That man does not have to work. He could sit on the government tit, and he's not. He's mopping up your throw up, putting up with your bullshit." That man's more of a fucking man than you'll ever be, right? And I'm like, oh shit,
Damn it.
But it was a hard lesson to learn,
Right.
and it made me realize that, man, my dad was right. Like,
Yeah.
this guy's doing the lowest of the low jobs. That makes him more of a man than most,
Yeah. And then he wakes up day in and day out.
and handles his business
love-
like a fucking man, dude. You know what I mean? And he does his job.
I like the one you have about he gets up in the morning still drunk.
Oh yeah,
Yes. Like, that reminded me a lot of my service days. Like, fuck yeah, man, I gotta
gotta
go.
go.
I gotta go do push-ups, man. I'm gonna throw up and do
but
push-ups.
fuck
right
it,
my
I'm
own
handling
vomit.
it. Yeah. So I take a very blue collar approach to my stand up career and my, everything. I mean, after the shows, we shake everybody's hand, and we give everybody the opportunity to say hello and take a picture and hang out. And it's not about money, and it's not about selling merchandise. It's about me thanking them for spending their evening.
I feel like I've seen you give away more of your merch than I've seen you sell.
I'm always
and you
giving
do
stuff
say
away, man.
you do not leave the fucking room until everybody has said goodbye
Everybody.
to you, and I love that. You do so much. Like you started up. I leaned over to another comic. He just started working at the store, and you opened up, started talking about Vicky, and I was like, how many fucking comics will you ever see that don't even tell a joke?
Hey, there's
and they start
another great comic.
Here's
you should
another
check her
comic
out.
you should go see. And then pop into their material. Like, how often have you ever seen that? Like,
Well, I
you
mean-
probably won't, and that's very commendable. Like, you
But
start off giving people praise, and you end your shows by praising other people.
You have
It's
to. I mean,
fucking awesome.
and Vicky's one of those people who didn't play the game, who
Mm-hmm.
was fantastically funny, who definitely knows who she is.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody gave her a fucking chance. Nobody was letting her on their shows. Nobody was calling her. Nobody was helping her out.
That's why I gave her
All-
champagne and cheese.
Yeah.
and
All of a
you
sudden
guys
she
get
gets
beer.
on AGT, almost wins it, and now all these piece of shit fucking comics are like, "Oh, I love Vicky." I'm like, "Really? Where were you when she was just Vicky, the funny lady? Where the fuck were you?"
I liked Vicky because I liked Lou. Lou would just get me high, and then he's like, "You got to meet my
Dude.
wife. She's coming in tonight." And then
Oh, man, but
she was
again-
nothing but sweetness from her. The
Her
first,
and
Love
Lou,
her.
and they're just genuine.
I'm so happy for them too. There are another
dude.
people that I'm just like, you guys are just killing it. I'm so happy
so
for you
happy
guys.
for him.
And I-
So happy for him.
It's like, yeah. So,
You know?
oh my God, that's right. Speaking of which, here's your. I didn't make you a Lego minifigure, Kyle, because you suck.
Thanks, guys.
But
Mine
yeah,
would've been
I made
kinda
her.
shit,
I
just
made her
khaki
one,
legs,
and
gray,
it had
gray
like a little.
pants and no.
I like that he made me
No
like,
hair dome?
I don't think so, Tim.
Yeah, you do look
Al-
like Al
man.
Borland.
Al Borland with a
little bit.
microphone.
Well, because I've seen you wear the flannel, but those outfits are pretty easy. Those are the only ones where I know you had boots. Those are the only ones where I had boots for the legs. But since it's funny because you took your family to Legoland yesterday, I was like, oh shit, because now when you're out on the road, you can leave that with the little one. Now he's got dad to play with.
Well, fuck, that's creepy.
I know it's
That's
weird,
not
right?
gonna ruin him.
Yeah,
You gotta
this
play
is
with
your dad now.
son.
Here's your little tiny father. But I mean, because Vicky's
awesome, man.
Vicky's
Thank you,
kids
dude.
are.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're very welcome. Vicky's kids, grandkids, are super into Legos too, and so like I made a little Vicky, and they love that.
that's cute.
This is the garage. This
Yeah,
is
I saw that.
The
I've
room
been
you're
looking
in,
at
and
that,
then hey,
yeah.
there's the store.
I do need to get back.
Let's get out of here.
I got to go to the restroom.
Yeah, I got to pee too.
All right, you guys.
But man, it's such a pleasure,
fun
dude.
closing.
And
Thank you so much for being here. I cannot thank
And
you
the
enough.
only thing that I will say to you is that I think you need to do a podcast about all these bullshit toys.
I'm working on
And
it.
I also think that on stage, if you open up your true nerdy self,
Oh,
that
yeah.
you will find your voice.
I'm on the hunt, man, and I can't thank you enough for that advice. Kyle, Steve, thank you guys
man.
so much. I'm going to let
much,
them go use the restroom and close out here. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you guys are interested, they are at the, well, you won't hear it tonight, but they're doing New Year's Eve at the La Jolla Comedy Store. They're all over the country. You can see them in Vegas, Jimmy Kimmel's Comedy Club. Steve has a show on, a special on Netflix. It's called Relatable, and you can get his newest special, Till Death, on Amazon. That is pretty much going to wrap it up for me. I'm Ron Ripley. Thank you so much for joining us on Honorable Discharge. If you cannot be good, be careful.